Hello and welcome to another edition of the Riverfront Reds Show, where apparently we don't have an intro song this week. And Chris Garber joins me. I am Seth Shaner. Chris, I wanted to ponder the question of why do so many Central Ohio cars end up in windows in houses? Like this is like an epidemic of massive proportions. There's something like 60 cars have driven through windows in the city of Columbus this year.
I don't understand it. I don't think that our homes are and our businesses are any closer to the road than
No.
other cities. I've lived a lot of places. The drivers are bad everywhere.
Yeah.
But people here love to drive into buildings.
Yeah, I saw today there was a in Westerville. Apparently, there's a Volkswagen dealership, and a test drive went awry, and they ended up in the window of the dealer. So beware.
Did you
Um,
see the one a couple years ago downtown? A Tesla driver claimed that his car got stuck in like 70 mile an hour,
oh my!
and he went flying up there into the convention center.
Oh my goodness!
Like right there at that corner. I
Yeah.
don't remember what street it is, but by the North Market, he just went off the freeway all the way up and ended up in the middle of the convention center.
I mean, that's what some of those shows, especially when self-driving cars started to get talked about a little bit, like the detective shows and all the different ones. Like they went crazy with, well, your car could be hijacked and
Yeah.
somebody could be driving for you. All right, let's talk about your Cincinnati Reds. They are suddenly good. I guess let me get your vibes. We're going to get the viewer mail questions later with some of the vibes. Like, what are your thoughts? I mean, they won 5 in a row, lost a game, then they won 4 in a row, and they lost the last game of the Twin Series. Just a pretty impressive little run here against some pretty good teams.
It is. I was thinking about this earlier today, and I'm not convinced yet that they're any good.
Yeah.
Like I think I've been burned so many times, and they've had these little runs, but I live in the moment with the Reds. That's where I am now. My son today, he's a Cubs fan. The Cubs lost to the Brewers. They kind of blew it, and he was really mad. And I was like, I wonder if he's got like playoffs and World Series on his mind.
Mm.
And I don't have that right now.
No.
I'm just
No.
like, I'm going to take every day as it comes. If they play well, I'm happy. If they don't play well, oh well, they'll play tomorrow. But I'm not like buying playoff tickets yet. I am not emotionally invested in this team quite yet.
No, and I guess that's what makes it. I don't know. It's like 2023 was so exciting, right? And part of it, I guess, was that we thought maybe it'd be a launching point. But at the same time, what I remember talking about a lot was, especially around this kind of actually right now, is when the 10-game winning streak was taking place. But what I remember talking about the most was just being excited that I was happy to watch the team and they were exciting to watch. And I guess the big thing there is this team this year, even when the record wasn't the best or when they seemed to have more downs than ups, you still had those little stretches where, hey, they still did okay. And everybody knows if they've looked at social media this week, they are the only team in baseball that hasn't been swept. So there is that. I mean, it doesn't mean anything, as far as, hey, that doesn't mean you make the playoffs. But at the same time, it just means that they've had their ups and downs. And as soon as you have a little bit of a down, I just feel like we've had the ability to see, taking 2 out of 3 from a good team or something like that. I think that's been that way all year. But right now, knock on wood, because the other night they did have some defensive lapses, it seems like they're playing better baseball.
They are playing better baseball. I think that's right. I mean, so for me, there's 2 things. One, I have never been and never will be a pitching guy. So this team being like pitching heavy doesn't enamor them to me like at my core. I like teams that score a lot of runs, run the bases aggressively, hit home runs. That's what's fun to me. So they're not built like for me, which is fine. But I still don't think their lineup's good enough. And maybe if Matt McClain becomes Matt McClain or what we thought Matt McClain was, then they might be a real lineup. But to me, there are too many guys, just a guy out there in that lineup. They keep running quadruple A guys and underachieving guys and whatever Santiago Espinal is out there for me to think, okay, I'm going to watch this team in October.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll buy that. but again, I guess I think your point though. I guess leveraging where you are, the Cubs. The Cubs kind of were like a little bit of a question mark coming into the season, but they played so well. I mean, so well to the point where when you did a show with me back in late April or early May, you were like, "No, the Cubs are good." I guess if they start that way, then all of a sudden you can start having those hopes and start dreaming about, because I mean your kids probably aren't, they probably remember the World Series, but now it's probably not like right in their wheelhouse, right, as far as
Yeah, yeah,
when they followed it every day. So they're probably like, oh, longing for that, but at the
yeah.
same time right now, I guess for us the Reds are just compelling.
Oh, and I think part of it's is like, recency bias or whatever, and whatever they call the thing, whatever happens first, primacy bias. But if they had started out like this, I might have a whole different view of this team.
Sure.
But they just kind of floated
Mm-hmm.
and flailed for the first, I don't know, 8-9 weeks of the season. Sometimes they'd look okay, other times they look like the bad news Bears. And I think that got me kind of, I didn't give up on the season, which I've done many times in May, but I'm just not bought in yet that these guys are going to do it. But they're fun players and they're good players. And I really like watching TJ Friedl. That guy.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
That guy, man, he is he's a really good baseball player, and he's a winning baseball player. I know that's kind of a cliche and a pre-sabermetrics kind of thing to say, but that guy does the things that are required to win the game, like day in, day out. And I really I kind of in some ways wish Marty Brennaman would call a couple games, because I think he would really be excited about TJ Friedl.
I think you're right. I think the scrappiness, I think he's just doing what it takes. And that, like, him getting hot doesn't mean he has hit some home runs. I mean, he's run into several of them already, but him getting hot doesn't mean he hits home runs in 4 consecutive games like Ellie did recently. It means that everything he touches seems to be going right, including like those little flares, that just happened to hit fair on the left field line from the left-handed batter's box. And yeah, I guess the biggest thing for me is trying to get away from this whole launch angle era that we lived through, and this idea of you have to have 9 guys in a lineup that barrel it. And listen, I like home runs too. I'm not saying I don't want any. I think they need more. But I guess my point is, again, I'll say it again, your leadoff guy needs to get on base, and your leadoff guy needs to be, in my opinion, a guy that can be scrappy and just kind of do that. And he just fits the bill perfectly.
Yeah. I mean, it's, I think a lot about like the NBA. I think that analytics and doing things smart broke the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
I think as an entertainment product. And I think we were dangerously close to that in baseball. Take and rake, launch angle. Every pitcher throws max velo. And it is optimal to win games, but it's not that much fun to watch. I mean, and part of it's when you grow up, but I loved 80s baseball when you had a lot of different styles and a lot of different types of players that were valuable. Mm-hmm. And Friedl, to me, is a little bit of a throwback that way, where
I agree.
He creates his value, and it's real value, through getting on base, playing strong defense, running the base as well, laying down a bunt. Like, I don't want everybody to bunt, but Friedl can bunt as much as he wants, as far as I'm concerned.
I agree. The funny thing is, you and I had that conversation. Remember the trivia? We were talking about the MVP votes. Like, this was back in like February. And I did not remember that Friedl got MVP votes in 23. So you and I on the show did that little deep dive into his numbers that year. And I didn't compare them this week, but a week or two ago, I looked at them, and he's on pace for a better season this year than he had 2 years ago. And we spent all last year just saying, oh, he'll never replicate what he did in 23. That was just kind of a weird, a flare up of something. And it's never going to be done again. And my goodness. And part of it is Terry Francona. Like, I know, like I said, he has hit some home runs, maybe more than I would have expected. But when Francona told him just get on base twice a game, that's all I care about. I don't care how you do it. Like,
yeah, I mean, his 381 is, I haven't looked, 381 on base percentage. It's got to be the best other than Votto and Shin-Soo Choo that we've seen in 15, 20 years on this team, right?
Yeah, as far as guys that would play every day. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, because how many times did we say, even when Votto was around, like nobody else gets on base? And it's like, now we're going to talk about him a little bit later. Ellie De La Cruz is getting on base, but not at 381. Definitely something to look forward to. I hope Friedel makes the All-Star team. I think Ellie will, but I really hope Friedel does as well. Let's talk a little bit about this 2 out of 3 series they took from the Twins. The Twins going into the final game of the series had lost 6 consecutive games. The first night of the series, the Reds come from taking the last 2 games of the series against Detroit, and they come back home. And I thought it was very impressive because something they weren't doing the first 2 full months of the season, they fell behind 1-0, and they fell behind 5-4, and they came back. They had an answer, and that was the defensive lapses I was talking about. Fraley literally had a ball go off his glove into the stands, and CES made an error, and Abbott actually gave up 5 runs, but only 1 was earned. But I thought that game was really good because it showed that they are, battling. And as much as I do want home runs, they are showing that they can score in other ways.
Yeah, that was a really good game because it was the self-inflicted wound. That's the thing that killed him so many times earlier in the season, and after multiple self-inflicted wounds, they were able to keep fighting. And I think Francona said something about it after, but it was impressive. Like, I was very, very pleased with that win. I thought that was a really good sign for them. And if they can, can they keep doing it? I don't know, but it would be cool if they did.
Yeah, and then of course the next game was a rain-shortened game, which I don't know about you, but I kind of gathered myself up the stairs and I got ready for bed, and I was like, well, am I going to turn this TV in the bedroom on and see the end of the game and make my wife mad at me? And sure enough, right when I was about to do that, they called it. So the Reds won a rain-shortened game. They were in the 6th inning hitting when the umpires had the tarps brought out. They won 4-2. Spencer Steer made his old team pay with a 2-run blast. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was cool. That was again, they kind of took care of their business last night, or Wednesday night, which they don't always do.
No, they did, and of course that leads us to Thursday's game. And I don't know if you got to see him as a day game. Martinez just didn't have it, and my son and I went to Roosters to watch the game over lunch, and just watching it was kind of like, man, they are just hitting him so hard. Even he gave up, I think, 3 home runs, but even the ones that weren't home runs were just laced into the outfield. And I just couldn't believe it. And I guess he's just going to have games like that. Now, as it ended up, I guess he only gave up, what was it, 4 of the runs, or I forget what the total was at the end. But they ended up, every time they seemed to claw back a little more, they give up more runs. So it was just kind of that kind of day.
Yeah, Martinez is a poor man's Bronson Arroyo in that way, where you get either good Nick or bad Nick. And, Bronson was a little more extreme than that because he could throw a shutout or he could give up 7 runs in the 1st inning. But
right.
Martinez, it just definitely feels like the witching hour comes for him sometimes, and he's not going to give you a competitive game. And I think his statistical lines sometimes look better than the actual game was.
Yeah.
Like you said, like Thursday, he may have only given up 4 runs, but he got beat up pretty bad. I mean, he gave up 8 hits in 5 innings and walked 2 guys and hit a guy. I mean,
I'm just telling you, they were missiles. Like almost every one of them was just crushed. And listen, Byron Buxton, if the Twins decide to be sellers, that's a guy. I mean, the funny thing about him is we compare Ellie De La Cruz to Eric Davis, but when Byron Buxton was coming up, if he could have stayed healthy, which Eric stayed healthier earlier in his career, it was toward the middle and later in his career that he had struggles. But Byron Buxton was being compared to Eric Davis when he first came up years ago. And he had 4 home runs in the 3 games this week. So
Yeah, he's
he had a
legit.
lot of folks kind of longing maybe for him to just stay in Cincinnati.
Well, I mean, what we guess we should probably talk about that. Like the Nick Kroll quotes. I don't know if that
Oh
was
yeah, bring it
were
up.
those out last time you recorded, but
Nope.
I mean it's incredibly depressing to read his usual song and dance. Well, Austin Hayes coming back will be just like a trade acquisition,
Hmm.
and Hunter Green getting back, that's like trading for an ace. And it's like, dude, you didn't build the roster in the offseason. Don't
Hmm.
gaslight me about getting back some of the guys that weren't a full roster anyway, and then you're going to be in business. I mean, that's a lot of why I can't buy in on this team, because I know they've telegraphed they're not going to build. They're not going to help.
Yeah, and Ken Rosenthal today had some comment on a podcast or something saying that it'd be, don't be surprised if the Reds are very aggressive. And he had some quote about how the Reds have put a lot into this roster. And I'm like, what?
What's he talking about? Jammer Candelario?
I guess for me, the funny thing is, and I wanted to bring this up, when we were at Roosters, my son and I, we sat next to a guy. Actually, he was wearing the LA All-Star jersey, which was pretty cool. But he and I were chatting a little bit, and I said, yeah, I just don't think they, I don't know. I just don't think they're going to do anything, and I worry about the fact that some of those moves have really been stinkers. And he says, yeah, but, he brought me back down to earth a little bit. He's like, some of these moves have been really good. And I'm like, yeah, they have, but Nick Kroll makes it so hard for me to really put trust in him because of these comments. Like, to your point, like, we've heard this, like the memes have come out was like, wait, is this 2023 all over again? Like, is it, well, we're getting this guy back. It's just like a trade, and it doesn't work. I don't know. Is there like a PR firm kind of like that gives you your checklist of sayings you can say, and
Well,
he just keeps going back to them?
I was told this by somebody who may or may not know that when you say PR firm, that after the infamous "Where You Going to Go"
Yeah,
incident, that the Reds were assigned some PR help from MLB headquarters.
that's right. I heard that. Yeah,
And the Castellini family was told, just stop talking
yeah.
and let these guys help you out. Now, I don't know if they've gotten a Nick Kroll, or if he's just comes to it naturally, this horrible, GM speak. But
Toby from The Office is giving him.
yeah, it's brutal to listen to that stuff. It's just like, buddy, don't talk at all.
Yeah,
Like,
and
I'd rather you not say anything than say that.
the problem too is, like, I doubt Nick Kroll was really excited to trade Sonny Gray and Luis Castillo. You know what I mean? Like, and I doubt he was excited to trade Winker and Suarez when he did, and then of course when they did the Gray deal, and then the whole fan base flipped out, and all of a sudden they found some pennies in the cushion, and they brought in, like, who was it? What was his name? Mike Minor, was that the pitcher? And it was like he's only making like 1.3 million less than Sonny Gray.
Yeah.
And it's just like, why? Why are you, why are you guys just, reacting this way? If you're going to, if they were going to rebuild, I guess at that point I would understand it a little more. But no, it just doesn't make sense. So I guess to give Kroll a little credit, I'm sure it's not his decision half the time when they've either given up on these guys or not. But the guy next to me at Roosters was asking, he's like, oh, you think it's time to bring up Chase Burns? We're going to get to him in a second. But one thing, if you did decide to bring up Chase Burns before we talk about his specifics, I was thinking about it. I'm looking at it and it's like, listen, I get that Nick Martinez has been pretty good, right? I mean, today, the Thursday day game was kind of a blip in the radar since early to mid-April. But one option would be, because I thought maybe Wade Miley would be, hey, he just doesn't have it, and we need to hurry up and bring Burns up. One option would be to bring Burns up and then make Martinez that swing guy again like you did last year, and basically piggyback him with Miley. And if Miley only goes 2 times through the order or 4 innings or whatever it is, then you've got them both there. They're both kind of stretched out, and so if if you need to put Martinez back in, or if Miley just can't hack it, then you just slide Martinez into that spot.
I love that idea. I really like that idea. I don't know, has Tito ever done anything like that before? I don't know. His teams ever use an opener, or did they ever kind of piggyback guys or tandem them or what? Anything like that?
Was it Andrew Miller? Was that the guy that was the really good reliever, but he didn't really use him as a closer? He used him kind of not necessarily as an opener, but he used him in kind of wonky times during the game. I feel like I remember him doing that with him quite a bit.
Yeah, Miller he uses like we call a stopper. The old fashioned like let's get him in and I think he had a lot of multiple out innings. I think.
Yeah, 2, 3, 4 innings. I think. Yeah.
And I think he even started some games.
Maybe.
In 2011, he started 12 games for Francona and the Red Sox. So he definitely has done some creative stuff.
Well, whatever happened last year, the middle of the season was when Martinez was basically not a starter. And they do all these crazy things where they'd even start an opener and then Martinez would pitch 3 or 4 innings and then, whatever. But by the end of the year, he was fresh and ready to go, and he was probably the best pitcher in baseball in September as far as numbers go. So I don't know. I'm not bailing on Nick Martinez yet. He's still doing a fine job as a starter overall. Today was really bothersome, though, as far as and we're recording this on Thursday. Let's go ahead and talk about Burns. One thing that's pretty cool to me is to have a team playing well. To talk about a surefire prospect in that kind of context, right? Like a lot of times, remember, like when Jay Bruce came up, it's like, well, they're going to sell more tickets now, and because they were already kind of out of it in May or whenever he came up, and it was like you bring these prospects up on a bad team that the ship's already sunk, and it's like, well, okay, that gives us something that's kind of distracting for us, but to bring up a top prospect when the season's going well, I was thinking about like, remember they brought up Chapman late in the year in 2010 after they'd signed him that year. And then even Todd Frazier, he'd had a couple of coffee here or there, but he came up when Votto was hurt in 2012. And in that stretch, he played first base a lot with Roland still at third.
Yeah.
To me, that's fun. It's fun to be able to say, hey, let's add to this with this hot prospect while we're actually having success.
Well, and I think the one thing that I do appreciate about the Crawl era is they don't seem to have played a ton of games with service time.
Yeah.
And now we're past that time.
Oh, yeah, well past it.
Yeah. So there's an old saying from the baseball prospectus guys years and years ago, there's no such thing as a pitching prospect. And the thinking there is if a guy can pitch and he's dominating, get him up because he's probably going to get hurt at some point anyway.
Yeah.
And like once they're good, they could be Dwight Gooden, 19, or whatever age they are. Go ahead and bring in the major leagues. And if they can pitch, let them pitch because there's a ticking, a burning fuse in that guy's elbow somewhere anyway.
Yeah.
So get your innings while you can. Rather have him pitch in the major leagues and blow out his elbow than pitch in Double-A and blow out his elbow.
I agree with that, but knock on wood, that doesn't happen anytime soon. But I will tell you, like Rhett Lauder, when they brought him to Double-A, he had a few tough starts there, and that kind of probably delayed things a little bit. Burns, he's in his second start in Triple-A earlier this week. 7 innings, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 7 Ks, and 0 walks.
I mean, if he does that 3 more times, bring him up.
I'm almost, if he does it 1 or 2 more times myself. No, but I see what you're saying. Danny Graves was on with Jim Day earlier this week, and he does all the ACC games for ESPN and ACC Network, and he loved Rhett Lauder. He says Burns is even better, and he's comparing him to Skeens. I mean, I don't know if I go that far, but
I mean, they gave Chase Petty a couple shots.
They did,
and that was disastrous, right? But Chase Petty only had what? I mean, before this season, he'd only made 2 starts at AAA.
Yeah, and it's a totally different prospect. I use that word, I guess, advisedly. Chase Petty was a high school kid, right? That got drafted by the Twins, and he got traded over here. Whereas Lauder and Burns are so much closer to finished products, right? When they're getting drafted out of Wake Forest, it's like, okay, it's almost plug and play. We're gonna hold you off this year because you've already pitched a ton of innings, and then we're gonna get you going. And like last year with Rhett Lauder, I mean, honestly, they probably could have brought him up even earlier and he did really well when they did bring him up in August or September. And here with Burns, it was more of a question of, do you even have room at this point, or is there a need, right? And we'll just have to see. If Hunter Green's gone too long, we'll have to see. I wouldn't go too much longer.
No, I hate the idea of Wade Miley blocking Chase Burns.
Yeah, but I guess wouldn't you agree, because of the timing of it, that it was probably for the best, because Burns hadn't even made a start at AAA yet, and
yeah. No, I agree. I'm not saying they're slow playing him. I'm just saying, like, they know, like, it's not just the stats and the number of starts, right? It's
the filthiness.
They're grading and they're video analyzing, they're doing all that stuff. And if they decide like he's good to go, then let's go.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk a little bit about the other guy that's just really fun to watch, and that's Elly De La Cruz. He did have a rough series against the Twins, so I'm kind of ignoring that, I guess, because I choose to. But Bryce Spalding, a good follow on Twitter, he had this before the series. Through 72 games, which Elly played in every game, actually, even though he took the bereavement. He didn't end up taking the leave, because the game was remember that was the game where they finished it the next day.
Oh, right.
So he actually had played in every game. He through 72 games, he was hitting 273, 352 on base, a 498 slug, 128 weighted runs created plus. Here's a few I highlighted last week on the show. Career best in K percentage at 26.1%. Career best in walk percentage at 10.3%. He's got a career high right now in hard hit rate and barrel rate. And he has a 2.5 BWAR with an OPS of 124, which is also a career high. He's everything that we need him to be. And, you can still see, I think he's bothered a little bit by the leg. He still doesn't have a triple, which is kind of weird to me. And he's not stealing with the frequency that he did last year. I think there is something in that leg that's a little banged up, but I'm still here to tell you that I'm pleased completely with how a 23-year-old is playing in this season.
Yeah, I don't think there's any way we can complain. I'd love to see him run more, but he's banged up, and Tito doesn't like to run as much. But the K rate thing is really impressive. I mean, he's on pace for what, 170, 175 strikeouts, 180 maybe, where last year it was 218.
Mm-hmm.
So, the first year he was striking out 1.5 times per game. The second year he cuts it down to about 1 1/3. And now it's just barely over once a game.
Right. And knock on wood, but the thing that happened his first year, especially late, remember August and September, were just he looked so worn out and just not with it. And even longer stretches last year was they would just come in such bunches. And I don't see that happening nearly as much this year. And he's making contact at least, and I'm excited. I'm hopeful that he can keep this up. I think it's a no doubter he makes the All-Star team at this point. I remember I bring it up. He hit 208 with 1 home run in May last year, and he still made the All-Star team. So he's way ahead of that this year, and he's having a great June.
Yeah, and he's not. One thing I like too is he doesn't seem to be. I mean, he's not. His batting right-handed is so much better too. I think. I mean, it's not great, but I don't feel like he's helpless anymore.
Right.
I mean, he's always batting 198 against lefties, but I don't know. Just like the eye test tells me that he's not like he can defend himself up there. He works at bat still pretty well. So
I think it's control. He's in control from both batters' boxes. Like he's more grounded that way, and just amazing. And some of these things that he's doing, I just think. Sometimes in baseball, because it's a day after day after day type thing, I think in baseball when you don't see it, especially back in April when it was colder and stuff like that, like I think sometimes we can kind of jump to conclusion and say, well, he's not doing this or he's not doing that, and it's just like wait till a certain point of the season and you'll be like, okay, he is, and he is that good. And you know what? Like there's probably even more there, I guess I would say. He can be even better, I would guess. I think it's in them. So at that point you're saying, well, go ahead and, let's watch him then too, right? Let's see how great he is. And then you could see that, hey, he is a true superstar. All right. Do you have any other thoughts on the news of the week before we get to viewer mail?
No, sir.
All right, let's do it. We put this out to our Patreon members and members of our Slack channel, which you will be a part of if you join the Patreon. I had a good response this afternoon. Tim Daniel, former Riverfront host, he said the Reds keep winning 203. We will take it. Very concise, Tim. That broadcast school is really paying off. No, awesome stuff. Winning 2 out of 3, especially against decent teams, is the way to go. Skylar Webker, current host of Late Night Reds, chimed in. He said Tito still runs the AL Central. Now that is something else. You and I haven't gotten to talk about the Ohio Cup. I know I was very excited. I didn't understand why they had to play the following 2 games after they won the Cup.
That's right. We clinched it.
But no, Tito won that just like he always did in Cleveland, and then he's running over his former division foes. Skylar also says, "This is my question. This team struggles against the teams in the division for some reason. How can the Reds change that narrative and keep this momentum heading into a series with the Cardinals, who are also battling for the last wild card spot?" Well, the Cardinals came back to earth a little bit, Chris. They had that huge, what was it, a nine-game winning streak or 10 games, and they kind of leapfrogged quite a bit. The Reds have played better. The Cardinals have kind of come back to the crowd a little bit. I don't know. I still think the Reds have a thing with the Brewers. I think that's real. I don't see why they would have anything with the Cardinals or the Pirates at this point.
Doesn't it feel like the Cardinal mojo or whatever that was?
Yeah, it's not there anymore.
It's gone, long gone.
I agree.
Like they don't have any of that devil magic that they used to have.
They don't, and it's I went to a game there in 23, and it was a kind of a misty, rainy day, but the place was not even close to full. And from what I'm seeing this year, now I know that stretch where they got a little better, and I think that helped the crowds, but their stadium doesn't look much different than GABP on like a random Tuesday night. It's not what it used to be. It certainly isn't, and I'm fine by that.
Best fans in baseball whenever you're in first place, I guess.
That's right. So I predict a 2 out of 3 situation for the Reds this week, and I'm going on record. So, all right, on to Kyle Kapler. He chimes in with biggest need on this team. What do we think? What's the biggest need?
Another power bat in the outfield.
I think that's the glaring weakness.
Same thing I said in October.
Yeah. Draw it up, right? It's there. He says Kyle does. Steer has been better lately, but it has to be at first. He needs to play there, right? I'm not holding my breath on CES. Boy, CES came out of the gates smoking, didn't he? And then he's come back to earth as well.
Yeah. I mean, look, we knew in 2023 that not all these guys were going to pan out and be really good.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's how it works. But it's almost like the Reds just decided these guys are established major leaguers and need to play every day, no matter what they do. And I'm like, I don't think CES has earned that.
No,
I'm not sure Spencer Steer has earned that. And it's like, I know they got to put the best guys out there they got, and Connor Joe may be one of them, but I don't know, man. It's some of the, I don't know. I'm not in.
And I think we thought that going into 24. I mean, it didn't take all those injuries to make us wonder about 24. Like, are we sure? Are we sure we should place all this on Marte before we knew he was suspended and CES? And Steer played hurt almost all last year, and then he started this year hurt. I feel like I've seen enough out of him to know he's a starting player. Does that mean he's the savior? No, I don't believe that, right? So, but yeah, CES, I mean, there's no track record. There's none. I just don't see it. I'm hopeful. I'm still hopeful, but I don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, both those guys still have negative wins above replacement.
Does Steer this year? Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
He-
I
Here's
get a
like,
little more. I feel like he's still a little more solid than what I think I can count on with CES, but I can't be completely
yeah.
sure that
I mean, they
he's.
got a lot of these guys. I mean,
Mhm.
Steer, Espinal, CES, Connor Joe, amazingly in just 25 games. Condelario, those guys are all Connor Joe 19 games. All these guys are like significantly below replacement level.
Well, but here's my problem, Chris. If Espinal was doing what he was hired to do, and that's
Sit on
basically
the
being
bench.
a utility player, right? And a guy who might start 3 games a week at short, third, outfield, whatever. If he was that, I think his numbers would be fine. I think his numbers would be what they were in early to mid May when they ended up putting him in the 2 spot and playing him every day.
Yeah, the problem is they're going to give him 450 at bats.
Sure. And then the same thing with your Michigan Connor Joe. It's Stu Fairchild last year. It's if you employ guys that are meant to be in a lesser role and you have them play that lesser role and they do well, that's fine. That is totally fine. But it's when you have to resort to playing these guys every day or batting them second day after day after day. That's where you lose me. Let's get off on a little more
Right.
less Reds topic. Brandon Kamek, who joined me last week, we had a good time together. He says, will Liam Neeson be able to handle the dual roles of national anthem singer and umpire? Have you seen this? Have you seen
No,
Liam
what?
Neeson is playing the Naked Gun? He's playing Frank Drebin's son. You haven't seen this yet?
No, Liam Neeson.
I want to almost pause the show and have you go watch
Oh
the
my
preview.
goodness.
Yes, Liam Neeson is playing the role of Frank Drebin's son in The Naked Gun. It's not a remake. It's basically just the
Sequel?
trailer's hilarious because it has what was his partner's name? I'm blanking. And then Norberg, right, was OJ.
Yeah.
And so they had these kind of like busts of these guys, like the members of Police Squad, and celebrating them and the fact that they're all gone. And it had Frank Drebin, and then the next one, and then and Norberg, and they made some OJ joke. It's hilarious. I don't know. It looks interesting to say the least, but yeah, as soon as we stop recording, you have to watch this and
All
text
right.
me.
I tried to watch a Liam Neeson movie last night. I think I was on Amazon Prime, and there Liam Neeson as Philip Marlowe, the Raymond Chandler detective from
Yeah.
1930s LA.
Uh-huh.
And I put it on. I'm starting to look at reviews, and they're all bad. And I made it about 6 minutes.
Oh my.
And I'm like, I'm out. My wife's like, what happened? I'm like, I can tell already. It's garbage. I'm out.
That's the best time to get out because
Yeah.
if you get an hour in, then it's like I don't know if I shouldn't stop.
Yeah.
I guess I was expecting it to have the plot line of Taken, but I guess that's
Right.
yeah. So we'll see. I don't plan on going to the theater to watch Liam Neeson in The Naked Gun, but I'll probably watch it at some point. All right, back to baseball. Rex Scott says, and he's got something for you here at the bottom. He says, all right, we've already answered this in part, but he said, do we need an outfielder or a starting pitcher? What's the bigger need? I still say it's an outfielder.
Yeah. I mean, they could use a starting pitcher, but they've got him in the organization. So they definitely need a pitcher. I mean,
they're far from like, having to employ Tim Adelman as starting pitcher. So I'm sorry, Tim, but you were the first one that came to mind. But Rex continues. He said, I'm starting to feel it is the latter, actually, a starting pitcher, given how crucial pitching depth is, especially in a stretch drive. Obviously, I hope we can address both needs before the deadline. And then how do you prioritize them, Chris and Seth? I guess that's where I am. The needs of this organization are an outfielder.
Here's the way to think about it. Who would you rather see starting in a playoff game? Wade Miley or Connor Joe? Wade Miley could maybe. But if Connor Joe's out there, I'm not happy.
Well, but in a playoff game, in a series like that, you might not even have to go below Lodolo. So it's
right.
Yeah. I mean, but then if you have to start Connor Joe in that game, Yeah, that's
all
not
7
good.
games. You got to start him all 7 games.
Oh boy. Yeah, I'm sorry, Connor, but hey, he says, "P.S. Chris, go Bobcats." Rex is
Let's
from
go.
Athens.
I'm with
Yeah,
it.
I don't know. They come to Ohio Stadium this year. What do you
They
think?
do. They do. Hopefully, we get a Sub Rosa Rufus
I remember
mascot
being as an Ohio
bowl.
as an Ohio State alum. I remember I was at that game, and I remember being so angry to find out he's not even a student. Like at Ohio State, the Brutus tradition is so steeped
Yeah.
in like you're basically a cheerleader or you're part of that.
No,
The guy wasn't even a
we
student.
had a guy from Hocking College who like snuck onto campus and somehow convinced him to let him have the mascot suit.
Well, that's only comparable though to the time that when I was in school, the guy who was Brutus, and of course we're never supposed to know who they are, but the guy who was Brutus got pulled over for drunk driving, and he had the Brutus head in the back seat, and he asked the cops. He says, "Don't you know who I am?" So yeah. No, but hey, I kid you not. Remember how quickly things could change. Ohio University had a great season last year. I take nothing away from it. But I'm from Morgan County, which is one county over from Athens County, and I went back home actually in December to pick up my new car. It was actually through my stepmom and my dad, the dealer they go through. He hand delivered the car to their driveway for me when I bought the new car from him, and so I had dinner with my stepsister's boys, and they're all one's out of high school, and then there's some junior high and things like that, and one other high school kid, and the one was he had been to a couple OU games and was real excited about how they won the MAC championship or whatever and all this, and Ohio State hadn't played Tennessee yet, and of course we're still coming off the Michigan loss and all that, and he's sitting at this table saying, "I think OU could beat Ohio State," and I'm looking at him, and I was so upset about the Michigan loss that I almost admitted, maybe they could. I don't.
No.
And then Ohio State goes on the run they went on.
Yeah, no, that they couldn't.
No, they couldn't. Well, in Ohio State, I was talking to a longtime writer covering Ohio State for over 30 years, and we were chatting today, and I said, the funny thing is Ohio State started playing MAC schools back in like early 90s when Andy Geiger became the athletic director, because they used to play like the thing that people don't understand was Earl Bruce and John Cooper in his early years would play like 4 Power 4 schools to get ready for the Big Ten. Like they play like Oklahoma and LSU in the same year, like stuff like that. And it's like all of a sudden in like 92, it's like, hey, why don't we play Bowling Green? And but they never played like Roethlisberger, and they never played like Josh Jacobs at Bowling Green or Charlie Fry at was it at Kent State, I guess, or Akron. So they never had that in this rotation. They never played the really good like. I think PJ Fleck coached against them, but it wasn't his really good team when he was at Western Michigan or whatever. Yeah, whatever Michigan he was at, Western, I think. But anyway, on to the next question. Mike Perry says, "Does Chase Burns make the team before the All-Star game?" Now, we talked about this quite a bit already, but let's go ahead and get out on a ledge here, out on a limb. All-Star break seems like a good time. It's basically 3.5 weeks away or whatever. Well, yeah, 3.5 weeks or so away. That you said what? You said 3 or 4 starts. That puts him right in line.
That feels too soon, though, doesn't it?
It feels too soon based on what, though? Based on his readiness or based on this organization?
On the organization. It just doesn't feel like something they do.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I think I'm with you. Yeah. It is interesting because one of the things they did early too, because the minor leagues play on that deal where they always have Monday off.
Mm-hmm.
And they were talking about how he wasn't used to regular rotation yet because of the way they would monkey with. And I guess that's a way to not. If you thought a guy was going to come up sometime during the year and you needed him to have innings later in the year, maybe early in the minor league season, you just keep him on once a week, kind of like the Japanese league does. And that makes his innings not be as high in total, but he's got to be able to take the turn, right? So I think that's part of what's happening now, right? In AAA, I would assume.
Well, take care of it.
Yeah. Well, I guess we're both on team after All-Star game, and that gives us a lot more time to work with too, right? So, and Sid Price rounds out our questions this week. Sid says, "Did you see Andrew Abbott being a Cy Young contender coming?"
I did not. In retrospect, I'm not surprised, but that's
That's kind of like the weird. Let's talk out of both sides of our mouth, but I think you're right.
Yeah. No, I mean that's fair. I mean, I think that's Andrew Abbott may be the most under discussed part of this season for the Reds. He's legit.
Yeah, you're pulling up his numbers. I assume now. I want to hear a little bit. Of course, the other night he did give up the home run after an error, and he ended up only giving credit with 1 earned run, but he gave up 5 in total. But he should have been out of that inning. But no, he's just amazing in what he's able to do. And the funny thing is, there's all this talk about how he worked hard to have more endurance and to be able to make it through the season and things like that. And then he stands on the mound and he looks just like you or I would wearing a baseball uniform.
I mean, he's got a 1.84 ERA.
Yeah.
69 strikeouts in 68 innings, which is, still really good for a starter. I mean, I guess he's an all-star too, right?
He should be. And I honestly thought he should. In the month of May, he had like a 0.55 ERA. And I know ERA is not all we go by when we look at how good a pitcher is, but I was really kind of surprised he didn't win Pitcher of the Month in the National League. Robbie Ray won it for the Giants. But no, I mean, he's been the guy, and I still remember, the first night he pitched, and Jim Day's interviewing his dad, and he gave up something there in the first or second inning, and his dad just goes, "Well, he'll get this turned around, don't worry." And then he was awesome for like 4 more innings, and it was like, okay, cool. This is a mad dog, a bulldog, like he's. And there's people that want to say things like, "Oh, Maddox or Glavine." It's like, we don't need to go that far.
No, that's insane. And
no.
Skeens is better. Like,
oh yeah, absolutely.
Who
would you pick?
Yeah, he's up there. I mean, he's legit ace. The Reds have 2 really, really good starting pitchers, and then whatever Nick Lodolo decides to be that day.
I agree. And then, as we discussed in the offseason, Brady Singer, he eats the innings, and that's fine. And then hopefully Nick Martinez can get things turned around. And I guess you really hope Hunter Green can come back sooner than later. I guess maybe the question should be, does Hunter Green even try to come back before the All-Star break? Yeah. I doubt it.
I'm sure the Reds medical staff will have it all taken care of.
Remember that time they were talking about his elbow and everybody was worried, and he bumped it on a training room cabinet door. It's like, at least if you're going to tell people what injuries guys have, like, let's be more specific.
More specific. Yeah.
All right. Hey, let's wrap this up on this. I wanted to talk about one of the craziest, and I'm going to admit to this, and I shouldn't. I scroll through Facebook. All right. I just do. And I probably scroll through Twitter more, but I do slide through Facebook. And now with Facebook, they give you more and more, you may like, or, I'm like, I don't even there's a sports card page on Facebook that I still have not followed, but I literally engage in one of their posts like daily. Like, it's like, okay, you might as well just follow them because now they're showing up all the time. But something had this meme, and it was basically copied from like an Instagram post or a Twitter post. So it wasn't even an original Facebook post, but it was a picture of Cal Ripken Jr. And I want your take on this, because whomever wrote this is not old enough to have been around when this happened. I'm just going to say that. And I'm getting old man, get off my lawn territory. But this person had a picture of Cal Ripken kind of doffing his cap. And he basically said, I just can't believe he played in 2,630 consecutive games. And then he said, that is just the most underrated, thing in all of sports history. Just like nobody talks about it. I'm like, were you? I mean, that thing was drilled into us, wasn't it?
We talked about it.
It was talked about.
Yeah, we talked about it plenty.
Yeah, I mean, just because it's been X amount of years since he played that last game doesn't mean like. I mean, it was talked about so much back then, and I guess I don't know if you're a real baseball fan, you know about it, right? It's not like somebody.
Yeah,
you're not going to trick somebody into like not knowing it.
don't brag about not knowing that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was 27 years ago, but like nobody hid it from you.
We talked about Lou Gehrig,
Yeah, right?
even when he was still 1,000 games away, we're saying, well, he'll never get to Lou Gehrig.
I'm aware of Cy Young's record.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right. No. And then the other one I saw before we went on the air was somebody was just posting about Pete and just saying, you get 200 hits for 21 seasons and you still aren't there. And it's like, yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. But the thing is, Ichiro, who knows, man? If times were different, if times were different, like if Ichiro were Otani, because Otani came when he was younger, like who knows? Because technically in both leagues, Ichiro does have more than that. But that's just incredible.
All right. I got a trivia question for you.
All right, let's end it on this.
All right. So there have been 6 Reds in the last 20 years to post an on-base percentage higher than TJ Friedel's current 381.
6 in 20 years, you said?
20 years. 6 guys. I mean, Votto did it 8 times.
Yeah.
Shin-Soo Choo did it in his 1 year as a Red.
I'll say Adam Dunn.
Adam Dunn's one. There were 3 others. Can you name them?
And we're going back to 05?
2006.
06.
But 2 of the guys did it twice, and the other did it once.
And it's 381.
Yep.
Did Jay Bruce do it?
He did not.
No.
One of the guys has been mentioned on this podcast earlier.
Oh, wow. Winker?
Yes, he did it twice. He hit 405 on base percentage and limited duty in 2018.
Okay.
And 394 in 2021.
That's going all the way. How many games did he play in 18? Or whatever years?
He played 89 games.
Okay. So I still need 2 more?
In 2006 and 2007.
A guy did it both years?
Yes.
Rich Aurelia?
Nope.
Jeff Keppinger?
Nope. Jeff Keppinger did have a really high on base, but he didn't have.
He did. He got on base a lot.
Yeah, I said a minimum of whatever plate appearances. 300 plate appearances.
Okay.
6
and 7.
So this is a high on base guy. Kind of famous for his on base percentage.
Man. All right. What position? Well, not infield or outfield.
First base.
Oh, Scott Hatteberg. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now the last one, this guy had a 385 on base percentage and a 548 slugging percentage in this season. And I would have guessed 1,000 guesses before I hit that.
All right.
It was this man's one and only All-Star appearance in his career. 2017.
Scooter?
He earned a donkey for his.
Zach Cozart. Yeah, I was thinking of Zach, and then when you Scooter was probably 18.
385 on base percentage.
Talk about guys that kind of. I mean, he had a good career. I'm not saying he didn't, but that year specifically, and Votto fought hard to get him that All-Star bid.
Yeah.
But talk about a guy that kind of came out of nowhere and did way more than he ever really had. Right? I mean, that was.
Yeah,
that was him putting it together.
You look at that and you're like, what in the world? So, yeah. So then it's Friedel. So Friedel is 17th on the list of on-base percentages in the Reds in the last 20 years.
Okay. All right.
281.
Well, let's stuff in the ballot box isn't working because the Dodgers and the Mets fans are just filling that thing.
The Yankees and the Cubs, it's all crazy to look at those. I looked at the ballot today. I'm like,
yeah, I mean, Lindor's a great player, but Lindor had over 1 million votes and Ellie only had like 300,000.
Do you know Lindor's never started an All-Star game before?
Wow.
And I think he's only been an All-Star like twice.
Well, but he played in Cleveland so long, and his first year or two in New York were kind of disappointing, especially early.
It's just weird, though. Like, you've got a guy who's like, I don't know, Hall of Fame.
Oh, yeah, he's on that path.
Anyway. He's got four All-Star games in his career. and no starts. They were all 2016 through 2019.
Yeah.
Near the All-Star game, and he's not made one in the last 7 years.
Well, of course, they didn't play in 20, so.
Yeah, fair.
But, all right, Chris Garber, we have turned very little prep into a nearly hour-long show, thanks to the folks who checked in on viewer mail, the slackers, as they're calling themselves. Really appreciate them, and I appreciate you, Chris, for joining me yet again.
My pleasure. Everybody have a great weekend.
All right, for Jeff Keppinger and Paul Yanish, I am Seth Shaner, and enjoy the weekend series against the Cardinals.